Hey everyone, Eric here, Eric Leet Fishing. Wanted to start getting some videos out to you guys that are a little bit more informative, have some more content, not just me out fishing, catching bass. So I wanted to start you off here with a technique that I use quite often. Probably the technique I'm the best at is drop shotting. Certainly a technique that everyone needs to know. There is not a lake or river or system of water where a drop shot will not catch fish. So it's definitely a great tool to have. So I'll get you started out here with part one, which is going to be basically the equipment that you're going to need to start using the technique, and then we'll get a part two out soon here with some on the water tips as well. So let's start off with the rods. Rods are pretty simple. This is my go-to drop shot rod. It is a 7'2" Wright McGill skeet reese drop shot split shot rod. This one is a little bit more of a parabolic bend. It has, I'll show you here, if you look at the tip, if I can get it in there. The tip it's not like normal rods, which will have a lot of tip action, but then really cut off the backbone really quick. This one really has more of a parabolic bend, so it bends a little bit further down the rod. I do like that, especially for shallow water, just because the fish tend to fight a little bit harder, and you're not going to lose as many fish that way with a parabolic bend. It keeps the hook pegged really, really well. We're able to keep pressure on the fish without tearing the hook out of its mouth. I have that one paired with a Shimano Symmetry reel. It's a 2500 FL, but really, any 2000 or 2500, 3000 or 3500 series reel will get the job done on that one. The next one that I use is the rod that I use for more deep water drop shotting. This will be kind of like 20, 25 foot plus. It has a faster tip to it, so it's a little, not heavier action necessarily, but the tip is really fast, and it provides a lot more sensitivity. So when you're in that deeper water, you're going to really feel everything that's going on. This is also a 7'2" Wright McGill drop shot rod, but it is the new Pro Carbon series. It's very, very sensitive. Great for fighting those fish in deep water. You can use it for shallow water also. I just like to kind of separate them a little bit. Again, I have that spooled with a 2000 series, I believe, Lew's spinning reel. Again, not sponsored by these reel companies. I just like the way that they feel, and the drag system on them is really smooth, and you really rarely have any problems with them. The next rod I use is actually, it's still 7'2" if you kind of see a running theme here, but it's the Wright McGill Senko Toad rod. This one I use for what we call power shotting. Basically, anytime you're using maybe a little bit heavier weight to drop shot, or you're in some deeper cover where you need a higher test line, I use this rod. So hydraulia, thick wood or bushes or trees. This is a great rod to use because, again, you can put a higher test, like 15-pound test on it, or 17-pound test, fluorocarbon, and get the job done, and it won't feel like you're overloading the rod. So that's pretty much it for the rods. That one, the reel, Abu Garcia Revo STX. I think this is the Generation 2. Just a really solid reel, and I've had it for a number of years, and it still works fine. So we're going to get to the line next, so stay with me here, and I'll be right back. So let's see. We covered the rods and the reels. Let's cover the line here. That's pretty simple. Pretty much any liner really work. I actually kind of subscribe to the school of using the braid as the main line and then tying on a fluorocarbon leader. I think you're going to get the most sensitivity out of that. It also saves you some money on fluorocarbon because you're only tying, anywhere from a 4-foot to maybe 20-foot leader on at a time. And it helps you extend the life of your fluorocarbon by not having to tie on, 150, 200 yards. So let's start with the braid. The braid that I happen to use is the Suffix 832 Advanced Superline or braid. I've just found, as far as price-wise, this one works well within my budget. It's sensitive. I mean, I kind of feel like all braids are pretty similar. I do like the white on it, though, because it helps detect those more subtle bites. You can really see the line jump, and it gets the job done. Next up, for the leader that I use, generally, is going to be Seaguar Invisex fluorocarbon. I'll use anywhere from 8-pound to 15-pound tests, depending on the application. So, clearer water, I'm going to be more in the 8 to 10-pound range. If you're in dirtier water or around heavy cover, I'm going to be in more of the 12 to 15-pound range. But Invisex is very sensitive. It's darn near invisible under the water, and I feel that it helps me land more fish. So that's it for the line, and I'll be right back, and we'll be with hooks and baits, and then we'll move on to how to actually tie it up. So, all right, guys, as far as hooks and weights, I keep it pretty simple. As far as weights, I use your pretty typical drop shot weight. It'll have the little clamp up at the top that you can just clamp onto the line. You don't need to tie any knots. If you get it snagged, it'll usually slip right off. But I'll use anywhere, from 1/8 to 1/4 ounce, occasionally going up to 3/8 ounce if I'm in really deep water or around heavier cover. Hooks, also, I keep it pretty simple. I pretty much rotate through 3 depending on my rig. If I'm nose hooking it, I'll use the Trokar wide gap hook. It's just like a wide gap finesse hook. You can nose hook them. Gets really solid hook sets on it. For the more Texas rig hooks or Texas rig baits, I'll use again the Trokar. This is their straight shank finesse hook. Has a nice little bait keeper on it, if you can see that, hopefully. And then for more heavy cover applications and heavier baits, heavier worms, I'll use the Trokar wide gap hook. 2/0 or 3/0, 4/0 sometimes, depending on the size of the worm or whatever I'm drop shotting. Bait wise, also, I keep it pretty simple with drop shots. I have 3 primary baits that I use, unless I'm doing something, needing to throw something really big. The first that I like to use is the Jackal Crosstail Shad. Then I also like to use the Roboworm Curltail Worm and the Roboworm Straight Tail Worm. The straight tails I use 6-inch, the curl tails I use 4.5 or 5.5 inch, and the crosstail shads come in 4-inch. So that's pretty much what I use for drop shotting, baits and hooks and weights. Stay tuned in a second here. I'll cover how to actually tie the rig. Hopefully you can see this. I know it might be pretty tough because of the fluorocarbon. I'm using 12 pounds, so hopefully you'll be able to see it. But what I use is the double uni knot. It's the easiest knot to tie, in my opinion, for leader material. Basically what you do, you run the 2 strands of line together, you take your braid, make a loop, and then across both lines you will run the tag end through the loop. I usually do 5 times. 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you tighten it down. I will usually wet the knot, but for quick purposes here, I'm just trying to get it done quick to show you guys how to do it. With the fluorocarbon, you do the exact same thing, just on the other side. You make a loop, you take both lines, and then you wrap the tag end around that, 4 or 5 or 6 times. I usually do 5. Sometimes I'll do 6 if I'm really worried about some snags or something like that. And then again, you tighten it. So you get the knot, and then you take the main line on both of them, tighten it down so it cinches on itself, and then you'll just cut off the tag ends, and you'll be ready to go with your mainline braid to fluorocarbon leader. Hey everyone, so I'm going to show you how to rig up the drop shot here. It's pretty easy. One of the easiest baits to tie in my opinion. I'm going to get as close as I can so you can see it. But basically you're going to tie it regardless of what hook and what size weight that you're putting on this line. You're going to tie it the same every single time. First off, I do the basic Palomar knot for your hook. So you fold the main line together on itself, put it through the eye of the hook, make a loop, put the tag end through the loop, don't tighten it down yet, then put the hook through the tag end loop, pull it up like so, and then you'll see you kind of have a figure 8 going on there. Kind of hold the knot, take both lines, both the tag end and the main line, and just cinch it down. And there you go. You got your Palomar knot hook tied. Then what you do to make sure that hook points up, because you always want that hook point pointing up, you run the tag end back through the eye of the hook. Tie it tight, and then you'll see that hook always points up like that. That's going to ensure that you get a good hook set. You get that hook in the top of the fish's lip or mouth. Next, you take your weight, and then you take the end of the tag, just slide it through the little opening in the weight, just like so, and then you just cinch it down, and there, you got your weight on your line. You're going to make your leader from the hook down to the weight anywhere from 6 inches down to about a foot. Sometimes you may go longer than that. If the fish are kind of suspended off the bottom like 2 or 3 feet, you might have a 3-foot leader from the hook to the weight. But generally 6 to 12 inches will get the job done. So that's it on drop shot. Stay tuned for part 2, which is going to be coming up pretty soon, with some on the water tips, just showing you how I throw it and work the bait. Hopefully we'll get some fish catches for you. So I look like I know what I'm talking about, basically. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Any questions, please feel free to comment down below. And always, I appreciate all subscribers. And you have a great day. Tight lines.